Hey, what's up, Mike? How are you?
Not too much, man. Is it Adam?
Adam, yeah,
What's going on, Adam? How are you, buddy?
I'm doing well. Actually had you on our podcast over the phone 3 years ago.
Oh, come on. Was that for when we were in love?
Yes, it was for
Okay,
that record.
cool.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
It was like
Thanks for
August.
having me back.
It was like August 2020. So stuff was still pretty weird.
Yeah,
But
that
yeah,
checks
man.
out.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm Adam again. I appreciate you doing this. This is about you and your journey in music, and we'll talk about the album you have coming out next month.
Cool.
Sweet. Well, we're if you don't mind, we can recap a little bit from the first conversation we had, but and then obviously talk about the new music. Are you're originally from Michigan? Is that correct?
You got it. Yep.
Okay, what part? And born and raised?
Yeah, so born in Denver, Colorado,
Oh, so not from Michigan
raised
originally.
in yeah, born in Denver. That was it, man. Like born there and we moved almost immediately. And then grew up in Michigan. And I'd been in Michigan all my life until I was about 21. I moved to Texas, lived there for about a year, and that's when I started the branches. And
Okay.
then we decided to move to Michigan, and we just got really, really serious. We all quit our jobs, as much of outside work as we could, and I detailed cars and would do that, and then after I would get out of work, we would rehearse from anywhere from 5 or 6 o'clock at night till 2 or 3 in the morning, and then I'd go back to work and do that. And then we started playing shows. People started taking notice. We got an agent, management, and as they say, the rest is history.
Wow.
But it was a lot of work, and I don't think I could sacrifice that much sleep now, but I was a little younger and more able-bodied then.
I was gonna say it's a little easier to do those things when you're a bit younger.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so Michigan, what about music? How did you get into music? Did you come from a artistic, creative, musical household at all?
Not at all. I mean, my dad listened to a lot of music, and I had a lot of time alone as a kid, and so my ears were always kind of glued to whatever stereo system was nearby. I loved listening to the radio, all different genres, country, rock, rap, pop, everything in between. It always felt like there was a conversation that was happening or a story that was unfolding, and I was really fascinated by that. And I had a pretty wild imagination, and so I think songwriting and songs were really powerful for me because I could hear the words and the melody, but then those songs would just take me someplace other than where I was. And um, my upbringing wasn't let's see, it wasn't great. I've been on my own since I was about 15.
Oh my
So
gosh.
music, I think, also became a way for me to disassociate in a way, and survive. So it's I'm grateful for music. I'm grateful for songwriting, and it's still something to me that even today, for as long as I've been doing it, um, it doesn't get old. I still really love writing songs, making records, and playing shows.
Yeah. Wow, 15, man. That's young. Um
Yeah.
so did you like pick up guitar at an early age? Like how did you begin kind of your songwriting venture?
Yeah, I initially wanted to be a drummer. I didn't I When I was listening to music in the early days, of course I was mesmerized by the song and the narrative, but really fascinated with rhythm and the drums. I always wanted a drum set, but no one wanted me to have one for reasons that I completely understand. And so now it's just whenever we decide to have a family, I'll need to make sure there's a basement that our child can get lost in. So even though it will be loud, it's maybe not as loud as it could have been. um,
Sure.
and so it was initially drums, and then in eighth grade, I became really fascinated with literature and poetry, and my teacher pulled me aside and said, "I think you've got a strength and a skill here with words." And then at the end of my freshman year of high school, I took a choir class, honestly, just because I thought it would be an easy A, and I had to do a my exam was singing a song in front of my class, and that scared the absolute daylights out of me. But I did it. I got an A, and a lot of my friends said, "Dude, we didn't realize you could sing." And I said, "Thanks, neither did I." And then I thought, well, I can take these melodies and lyrics, and maybe I can start writing songs. And so that from that point on, I just always carried a notebook with me wherever I went, and definitely spent a lot of the time in class in high school when I wasn't interested in whatever was being taught, writing songs that basically just sounded like a D plus version of Blink 182 because
There
that's
you
what I
go.
was into at the time.
Sure. Wow. Well, I will say I have well, now he's 7, but we got him a drum set when COVID began because he has a lot of energy and but we got the electric kit. So you always have that as an option.
Ooh, that's smart.
Get the headphones. We did get him the one that has a real kick. So it can be kind of loud-ish, but not nearly what like a real set would sound like. So
Yeah,
there's an option there for you.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. So you started writing songs then once you kind of well, you were always writing, but once you realized you could sing and you start writing, different things down, were you in a band or did you start a band
Started a
around that
band.
time?
Yeah, I mean, I had a band that I was the drummer of in fourth grade called the Cool Kids.
Oh,
Great
nice.
name. Uh, and the drumsticks that I played in that band were given to me by my teacher, who was also a drummer and was just like a hero of mine. So that made a huge impression on me. And then eighth grade, I had a band called Contradiction, another just god awful name. I think at the time I was listening to like a bunch of Godsmack and Metallica, so I feel like the name fits.
Okay. I
And
was thinking
and then
Green Day Walking Contradiction when you were talking
oh
about Blink
yeah,
earlier.
yeah, man. I that came like uh mid to late like freshman year of high school. I fell head over heels in love with Blink and punk rock.
Okay.
Um, And then I had another band in high school, a couple different bands. The second band broke up about a year and a half after I was out of high school. Got really in like, I mean, was abusing drugs though, and just classic debaucherous lifestyle. And then I kind of dropped music completely when I was around I think 19, and from 19 until about 20, halfway through my 20th year, was just really involved in this non-denominational church, but started writing songs with Shannon, who would later join the band and um, essentially founded the Branches with me. And then we we never looked back. Her and I have a rare chemistry, and she's also not just a collaborator but an incredible editor. And I think it took me a while because when I was really putting my reps in and learning how to write songs, it's hard as a kind of an amateur songwriter not to take someone's feedback personally, because you
Sure.
feel like for me I felt like she was attacking me,
Mhm.
and really she was just saying, no, I think the song could be better. You're great, I like you as a human, but the songs aren't solid. So um now I know that if she is saying that a song is really strong and has potential, she really means it, and that's really encouraging.
Yeah. Well, when did you meet Shannon? Like, where were you still living in Michigan at the time?
Yeah, she ended up, so the band that I left after high school, I quit when I was probably 19. Um, and then was literally homeless, kind of like crashing on friends' couches. I had played in the band she was in called Definition Plexus, around like the mid Michigan area. and they ended up needing a singer. And I thought, well, what's the worst that can happen? So I joined the band that she was in, became fast friends with all of them, left that band as I got really involved in church. Like I thought I was going to go to seminary and like
Oh, wow.
try to be the next Billy Graham or something.
Yeah.
And so we just remained really good friends. But then she ended up leaving that band, and we hung out a couple of times. And she just played piano on some songs that I'd written on my acoustic guitar. Played a couple coffee shop shows, and then when I moved to Texas to kind of get away from everything for a while, she stayed in touch, and we would send song ideas back and forth, and that's still what we do today.
Oh, wow. Well, you're
Yeah.
married, correct? You two?
Yeah,
Or
you got
okay.
it. Yeah.
So instead of sending stuff, you're just in the same household.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, hey, do you want to come to the studio and listen to this idea? Yes. So now it's less like we're married, so the fight is always like, is tonight going to be a night where we're hanging out and being a married couple, or are we gonna not do Netflix and date night, and are we gonna hang out in the studio and bounce ideas off of each other? And it's a delicate balance, but I enjoy it.
Yeah, that's a really cool thing to have. So you moved to Texas. You just moved to
Yeah.
Texas to get away from Michigan and everything, and then you're still
Yeah.
writing there or working on songs there, and then that's when you continue the band or your guys' working relationship at the time.
Yeah, we had started turning this thing off here real quick. I've got a really obnoxiously loud speaker that's driving me nuts.
Go for it.
Um, uh, yeah, I moved down there. I'd had kind of like I tell folks almost like a midlife crisis at 21. I really just needed to get away. I think there was a kid in, like an 18-year-old in the church who had just come out, and he didn't receive a lot of like affirmation, and I just was really conflicted about that. I just felt like, as a person trying to pursue a life that um is walking in love, truth, and constant forgiveness, I just couldn't reconcile the fact that like this guy would be ostracized or um excommunicated for a church just because of who he was. So that and a bunch of other things that just like typical church trauma, and you combine all of that with like being on your own at a really young age, daddy issues, the whole nine yards. Like I really felt confused,
Mhm.
and like I didn't I didn't know left from right or up from down, and like I needed to just get away and start from scratch. And my sister was down in Texas, and I had a job at this casino, so that's where I would go on writing like all of the lyrics, primarily to our first record. Was just uh, working the graveyard shift at this. It was called Windstar World Casino. It still exists today, um, and and then I met a drummer down there and a bass player at the church I was attending. Shannon came down for a couple of rehearsals, um, and then we ended up going back to Michigan, literally because someone from that town had won like a crazy lawsuit, um, uh, and said, "I want to pay for your first album. I want to just gift you with the budget to make your first record." And we just took that as like a sign, and all lived in this tiny little house together, and made our first record, and then went on tour and never looked back.
Wow. So that record
Yeah.
was funded, and then you did like another like crowd funded for the second album, right?
Yep, for Calm Down. Yep.
Yeah. Wow. So you gained obviously enough support and enough fans based off of that first album that people were like, "We want to hear another one," and were
Yeah.
able to support that. That's a massive accomplishment.
Yeah, we were grateful. I mean, I think for our second record we raised like 40 or $50,000, and I still today don't consider I don't think of our band as like a large band. I recognize everything is relative. Like we are technically a national touring act, but the fact that our fans were willing to donate those kind of numbers was astonishing to me, and I am really really grateful for our fan base and their support.
Mhm. And well, you had a few years in between the record that we talked about, right? I mean, like 5
Yeah,
years went in between those two albums. With that, like, were you just writing songs? Like, what, or were you living in Michigan at that point and just kind of working on the band stuff? Like, what went on in between those years before you
yeah.
put out this record? I mean, or
So
the
I
record,
got
the most recent
a
one, I guess, that you put out.
yeah. So I gotten a job at a church because we were, I mean, just a baby indie band, not making enough money to. We're barely making enough money to make payments on our van, let alone like go on to tour. So
Yeah.
I and Shannon and I had just gotten married, so it was about a year after we got married, and I thought I need to get a job, and hopefully that job will provide me with enough financial flexibility as well as time flexibility to still do the band on the side. Um, and that's what I did, and then I fell into um, uh, kind of an unorthodox career path where my songs started getting placed in TV shows and movies and commercials and stuff. Um, and that I was like, holy cow! I just landed a song in a commercial that paid me what I will make working for my church for a year. I should do
Right.
this. I should do this more. Um, and so I kept doing that on the side and saving and saving and saving until eventually the year we put out When We Were in Love, we were able to move down to Nashville and buy a house and um, build build my dream recording studio. And I still do a bit of that, but I'm shifting my focus now away from writing for television and film and more just writing with other artists and producing other artists and focusing on the band.
Nice. And you're in Nashville still?
Yep, yep.
Very cool. Well, when I talked to you last, I lived in San Diego, and now my family and I moved here about 2.5 years ago, almost 3 years ago now.
Cool. You're in Nashville?
Yeah, we're south of Nashville. Yeah, Williamson County.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, love
That's
it. This
awesome.
this place is amazing. It was the best decision we've ever made.
Good. Good. I'm glad you're here. We could have done this in person. We'll do the
I
next one in
know.
person.
Yes, definitely. I know. I didn't realize that you were here either until
Yeah.
I went back and was listening to the first interview. I was like, wait a minute, he's in Nashville? Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's a small world. That's cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you moved down to Nashville, um, and you then begin working on the most, or that album that came out 3 years ago now, or 2 years ago now?
We moved, so we had put out When We Were in Love, and I think it was the year we finished touring that would have been summer of 2019, and we moved down that fall.
Okay.
Um, yeah, because When We're in Love, goodness gracious, was that 2018, I think. Man, time
I think it was
flies. Um,
29. I think it came out in
2019.
2019 just because based
Okay.
off of our interview, yeah. You had
Yeah,
that
that makes
out.
sense.
Yeah, and then it was like August when I interviewed you.
Yeah, so we moved down, literally, we bought our house in late August of that year, and moved down to Nashville in October of 2019. Um, I started writing Memory Unfixed. I wrote the first song for Memory Unfixed. That's the opening track, literally in the room that I'm doing this interview, and this is like Shannon's office, and I just had a this beat up, crappy old like $50 Behringer amp that I plugged her Nord into because I was trying to practice piano and get a little bit better at it. Because I'm not like an amazing musician. I play guitar and piano like a songwriter,
Mhm.
like good enough to write a song, but no one's going to be like, that dude's a shredder. Um, and I
Which most
wrote,
songwriters could probably care less about being a shredder. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Yeah, it's funny.
totally. It's only recently that I've tried to really get a lot better at that because when I'm in the studio with an artist who's needing to lean on my musicianship, I'm like, oh snap, I really got to brush these things up. Um, but yeah, we moved here in October, and then everything shut down a few months later. So I just doubled down on songwriting, and then as the restrictions started loosening up, we did a couple of songs on the record live in the studio, mostly live. But then everything else was kind of cobbled together remotely. I'd write the song, record an acoustic demo on a vocal, send it to Jesse Proctor, who played drums on everything. And then our bass player, Josh, was, in order to get married and be with his wife, she's from Australia. They couldn't meet up anywhere in the States, but they could meet up in Hawaii, which is also the United States, but for whatever reason, like they would let them. Yeah. So they had to, I can't even remember what it's called. Like they had to, why is my vocabulary failing me? They had to be isolated for like 2 weeks in a hotel, and then they could get together in Hawaii. So during COVID, they just got married over in Hawaii, and he tracked all the bass parts remotely shortly after the wedding, and then all the guitars were tracked remotely, vocals were tracked remotely. So it was very much like cobbled together through the internet, which is cool. It feels like the way the record was made feels like it reflects a lot of the content on the record.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting that but the album's coming out next month. So you've had this done for a while now, or?
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, we've had it done. It was done in 2021. At the end of 2021, I had a suicide attempt and went away to the desert for about 6 weeks, and then I went to Denver for about 3 months to work on my mental health, and I'm in recovery now, and sober and doing much better. But yeah, the album was originally supposed to drop in early 2022, and I went away and got some much needed help, wrote another album, so there's still one in the cookie jar. But it's interesting now coming back and being in recovery and really working on my mental health. I'm seeing the album through a completely different lens, and that's something, my mental health journey, I've always worn on my sleeve. My fans are very aware of that, and the gift, we just got home from tour, and I got to chat with this guy and his wife at a show we played in Denver, and they were both weeping, and they've been through like a pretty hellish season in their marriage, suicidal ideation and depression, and it was cool to know that my vulnerability and honesty about my experience was able to help them. And yeah, so it's taken a while. I feel like this time between records is only 3 years, so I'm hoping let's crank the next one out, a year or two after if I can, but not as long next time.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate your vulnerability and telling me about that, because I'm also in recovery. So I think that's
Awesome.
cool that you're sober and you do the recovery thing, man. That's great.
Yeah. Saved my life. It really did. And
same here.
I try not to, I'm not ashamed of it. I think at first I used to be, but now the 12 steps, man, completely saved my life. And you want to find God, you want to find healing and hope and strength, go sit under fluorescent lights in some rundown church's basement and listen to people talk about what they're most ashamed of. And you will leave knowing you're not alone, and you will find hope in a really, really beautiful way. So I've found my family in those rooms.
Same here, man. I love hearing that. I have the similar experience. As you know, most do in those rooms. You hear
Mm.
your story in a different way from a lot of people, but yeah, I mean, I had the same thing where I didn't want to tell anyone about it, and every time I didn't and kept it to myself, I'd relapse. So this time around,
Yeah.
I've been a lot more vocal about it, and I don't really care who knows, and I'll tell people. And for me, it's been, you know, a whole different experience. Well, and this time I worked the steps and did all, did all the work,
Yeah.
but you
Right.
know what I mean? Like just not having just having the stigma. I thought for me, it was like, oh, I can't tell anybody about it. It was like the shame thing. And now I'm like, who
Yeah.
cares?
Yeah,
But
man.
yeah, dude. Well,
My One of my early sponsors said, "We're not bad people getting better. We're good people getting better," and it was really, really powerful to me.
mhm.
And but I think the other thing that I have to really watch is there is a certain level of plasticity that you start to recognize in more like surface level relationships, or relationships that are more industry based that feel kind of transactional. And I need to really I need to not judge that, because not every relationship or friendship I'm supposed to have is supposed to be like what we're doing now, right? It's like we're going really deep. Not everybody wants to just get on an elevator and go down to like the 100th floor underground.
Mhm.
And that's okay. But I'm also grateful that, I was able to play a show in Nashville on Tuesday night and my recovery friends were there. And
Wow.
I'd had a really shitty, you know, 3 or 4 days before then, and being able to look out into the crowd and see my brothers and my family there was like that got me through that show. Um, so yeah, it's cool. I'm happy to share that bond with you. That's really, really cool.
Yeah, it is. It is. And it's, I've said many, it's not on this program, just gonna whatever now, but like, I've shared and stuff. It's just like the people that you use and party with, like those are the first people that will stop calling once you're not around. And it's like the
Yeah.
people that I've met in the program are the ones that are just calling you like, you good? Like, how you doing? Like, just it's so weird to have people come to you like, yeah, here's my number. Like, call me if you need something. Or like have somebody
Yeah.
you could call and just be like, yo, I'm like having a shitty day. And then you could just, and they'll listen to you. Like it's
Yeah.
not a transactional thing like you're saying. And it's just such a
Yeah.
different vibe, and it's a different relationship. And it's something that I was always lacking or in wanting, growing up. And yeah, I have nothing but awesome things to say about,
Yeah, man.
the program and everything. But we'll talk off this thing because I'm curious where you go.
Oh
But
yeah.
so you had the album done, you've got another album sounds like done. And you're doing some
Yeah.
touring coming up as well, right? Supporting the record.
Yeah. Yeah. Album drops on September 15th. And then we're doing about a month on the road with King's Kaleidoscope, all of October. um, more exciting things coming up next year that I'm not at liberty to talk about, but there's more cool stuff in the works that I'm just really, really thrilled about. And yeah, just grateful. I think prior to, you know, not to just only talk recovery to the point where people are like, shut up. But
Important.
yeah, like the pre going away and really working on my mental health and my spirituality and everything. Pre to that, I was really disenfranchised, and depressed because I felt like I had found success as a songwriter, I had found success as a producer, but really felt like my artist career was a complete failure. And man, it doesn't matter how big we are or aren't. Like there are artists that pull me aside and say, "Dude, I would be happy if I could just get to where you are." Um, and people are like, "Bro, you have a house, you have a studio, like you did it." And I was just so miserable. I was so miserable. Whereas now, I not to make it sound like I'm also not working really hard to
Right.
make an impact and to grow my band but I also realize that it just doesn't matter. Like, I think the heart behind it is what matters, and music is my medicine. Music is my therapy. It is a spiritual practice that helps me understand myself, and as Richard Rohr would say, it helps me pay the rent of being human, which is pain. Um, and then knowing that there are other people who can hear my music and feel seen and feel understood, and ultimately know they're not alone in the things that they're having explosive joy over, as well as like deep, dark, heavy shame about. It just gives me a lot of hope. So now I always tell people, if you want to know who your friends are, go to rehab.
Exactly. That's what I was saying earlier. It's like those are the people that'll stop calling you are the ones that you used to hang out with prior to going, I'm sure. So either they don't want to see a problem in themselves, or you're not going to be as fun anymore in their
Yeah,
eyes, right?
yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, man.
Well, dude, I can't wait to. I mean, the album's coming out next month. That's amazing. That's congratulations on the tour and sobriety, all that stuff. And thanks for being vulnerable and all that. I appreciate it. And you did say, and you even told me this last time we talked. You're writing for other people, or writing with, and maybe for other people, producing for other people. Are you still doing that as
Yeah,
well?
I am. I've got a production project potentially lined up for September, and then definitely one for in November and December. And then after that, I think I got to hit the brakes, because I'm feeling the itch to be in my studio alone for a while as well, and work on the next Branches record. Like I feel like the bones are there, but I need time to kind of sort through everything and figure out what I want to duct tape together and put into a box and send out into the world, you know. But yeah, I'm grateful to be doing it.
Love it, man. Well, thank you so much, Mike, for doing this again. I really appreciate your time.
It was an honor, Adam. Thank you so much. Appreciate
Yeah.
it.
I have one more quick question for you before I
Yeah.
let you go. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Ooh. Yeah. I would say we lose our way when we lose our why. And I would just try to stay as connected to your why as possible. Like, if you really want to make a lot of money and you want to be big and famous and rich and blah blah blah, and like if you want to be a star, good on you, good, and like get after it. That's not my why. My why is, to quote Bob Dylan, a man is a success if he gets up in the morning and goes to bed at night and in between does what he wanted to do. Like, I just want to be able to make a living making music, and some days are better than others. But I think I would say if the reward remains creating the art for the sake of the art, I think that would be enough to sustain an artist through having to work a job so that they can support their art. It will be what sustains them through going full time and having a label tell them, we're not hearing a single or whatever. Like, if make the main thing creating art that you're actually proud of, not art that you hope will sell, not art that you hope others will make. Like, the listener and the consumer should be the last thing you're thinking about. You should be making art, make the music that you want to hear, and then share it with other people. And I think you'll be surprised. Bringing it backward.